This session is called The Coolest Tools, Part 1, and it's part of the Loving God's Way Introductory Series, and this is session 7 of the Introductory Series. I'm not sure how long exactly they'll go for, but at this point I'd say somewhere around between maybe 10 and 15 sessions all up, which is hopefully about 20 to 30 hours of material, and I hope that covers a basic outline of how divine truth works from the perspective of someone who's struggling to grapple with it in their heart, to be honest. This was recorded at the 19th of June, 2019 in Pyrmont, New South Wales, Australia. And Mathew Costin, myself, is the presenter, and I've been once again assisted by my wonderful friend Thalia Skopoulos. I'd really like to stress, particularly with this recording, that myself, Mathew, I'm very much a work in progress, and I don't feel that I was in a very loving state while I was presenting very much. So please keep in mind that a lot of what I'm talking about are things that I'm developing faith in, and some of which has entered my heart, but a lot of it still hasn't. A lot of it I'm really struggling with. So please don't think that I'm a great example of someone who has really grown in love. Sorry for the long introduction, guys, and I really hope you enjoy this presentation, and thanks for bearing with me, and I hope that you get something out of it. Thank you. So, how's everyone's, we'll just check in with everyone briefly. How's everyone's week been?
So far, so good.
Yeah, good. Nice.
Tumultuous.
But last week?
Yeah.
Last week was hectic.
Big time.
Emotionally hectic.
Same, yeah.
And the 2 weeks before that. It's been a few weeks of emotional hecticness.
Yeah, how you feel now as a result?
I feel a lot better. Yeah. Went through some things, and so I feel I'm a little bit more connected to me again.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good thing to really actually just be really connected to yourself. Who's been doing quite a bit of feeling out?
That's right.
How about you, Kate? How have you been going?
I think I've been pretty avoidant up until like right now. So.
Alright, had a bit of a feel before, eh?
I got in the elevator, I was in pain, so
Yeah.
yeah. And then I started crying.
It's really interesting that like emotion's always the key for us to like reconnect with ourselves, you know, and particularly like if we have a desire, like we exercise a desire to emotionally connect with God, because often what we'll do is we want to emotionally connect with something that isn't true inside of ourselves. Like all the time, myself included. Rotate this slightly. Okay. Cool. I'm going to grab a little bit of water. Yeah, it's been a really interesting week for me as well. I had a good chat to Jesus on Thursday, and got some feedback on a whole bunch of things, which is very confronting. But yeah, a lot of people after they've had a chat to Jesus get really angry for a good 6 months, go into a massive rage and go into denial and, you know, hate him for a while. So I figured I don't want to do that. I actually want to confront what might actually come face to face with what's going on. So in that way, it's been good. Yeah, law of attraction's been really interesting as well. It's great how the precision with which the law of attraction is acting on our soul in every single moment. Every moment. Yeah? Like, and you will have what I learned the other day, like, because I had a big event happen. One event, multiple laws of it, multiple attractions in that one event. Right? It's just, like, honestly amazing to see, oh. So, like, God's economical in that way. He doesn't just he's not just like one event, one emotion, one issue, done. He's like, no, like this moment and then this moment and then this moment and then this moment. All of those moments are all things that are still going on inside of you. And if it's painful, that you don't want to address. That's how, like, I guess, like, firm God is about like, in terms of the way that he's designed the law of attraction to work upon our souls, is it's just this, like, relentless stream of truth. Like, it never stops. And I feel like if it did stop, I don't know, I feel like the whole universe would fall apart. In a way. I feel like the law of attraction is pretty important. Yeah. So we talked about forgiveness and we talked about repentance. Who's experimented with some of that stuff? Who's experimented with some forgiveness stuff? Looked at some forgiveness things. Who's looked at some repentance stuff? Yeah, I feel like you have, eh?
A little bit.
A little
Not
bit.
a lot.
Yeah.
Like I've made a list of bad things that I've done that
Yeah.
I felt about,
Yeah.
and then I felt like, wow, like coming into an awareness and out of denial that, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And every time a new memory pops into my head, oh yeah, that unloving thing, feel like about that, you know what I mean? But I haven't really taken steps to repair anything at the moment.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just coming to
Well, before we repair, we've got to look at, like, correcting as well. So.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I haven't even looked at correcting it.
Mm.
So it's just coming out of denial
Yeah, cool.
over time.
Who feels like they're coming out of denial over time at the moment? Massively. Yeah, good. Yeah, repentance is like, requires more humility than forgiveness does, actually. And God rewards you for engaging in repentance more than forgiveness even. How cool is that? So, like, you're like actually rewarded, like, personally, by God's laws and through the feelings that God has for you, that God wants to give you as you engage in actually going through taking responsibility for the unloving things that you've done. Yeah. And sometimes it'll just sit there for a while. And often, like, it can be a gift that other people give as well. There's this wonderful story inside in the Through the Mists, and near the beginning of Through the Mists, Afra, who, his original name on Earth was Fred, and I've actually got something that he wrote today in here, so we'll come back to Fred in a little bit. But basically, he just arrived in the spirit world, got hit by a cart trying to save a little kid, and then, you know, he passed over, woke up on the sort of the side of a big bank, like this big hill, and in the distance was this, like, wall of mist which he'd been carried through, which he'd passed through, and then he was lying there resting and stuff. And then just after that, he goes over the crest and he's like with some people, and they're explaining how the spirit world works and what's going on and where you can go and stuff. And they're walking around, and then they see this lady, this woman, right? And she's panicky and she's terrified and she's covered in rags and she don't look good, right? So what's that an indication of, if that's what she looks like in her spirit form?
Soul condition.
Yep. And her soul condition being what?
Bad.
Not great, right? Not super great. And considering that most people who come from Earth already don't look great, for her to have stood out means that she's probably even a bit darker than the average person. So, and she just wanted to get away from everyone, and she felt so naked and like exposed, right? And then who does she run into? She runs into her son and her daughter, and I think her son had just passed as well. But if I remember correctly, her daughter had passed a while before that, right? And her daughter had grown significantly in love. You know, and then the way that it's described in the book is that this daughter had come to a place where she really forgave her mother for what her mother had done to her, and there was the way it was described is like this beautiful jewel of forgiveness, like flowed out of her and rested on, like near or on the actual spirit body of the mother. This beautiful gift of forgiveness. How wonderful is that, right? So it's like a physical thing. Although we can't see it here on earth. But she was so terrified to come face to face with the people who she'd hurt so badly that she turned tail and fled. But that gift is just going to sit there until she's ready to engage repentance, until she's ready to receive that forgiveness. Yeah. Pretty darn cool, I think. Demonstrates like the power of it, and also that you don't get the benefit of it until you're open to it as well. Anyway, let's talk about today. So we're going to talk about the cool tools. These are some tools that I learned originally, like from one of AJ and Mary's like week-long assistance groups that they did. And so we're going to focus on two. I really wasn't too sure about the first two that I wanted to talk about out of the four. But I thought I'd talk about faith, because we haven't really talked much about faith yet, right? Not really? Yeah. And it's massive. It's so big. So when I say faith, what do you think I mean?
Like believing in stuff without having like solid proof of it, or something like that, or just
Yeah.
believing in stuff, right?
So right, belief without proof. Yeah. Belief without proof, correct, yes. Anything else? What's faith?
Trusting that things will happen. Possible. Things will, yeah.
So there's trust involved in that.
Trust in some sort of outcome.
Yeah. Trust in outcomes. Yep. What else? Faith.
Desire.
Desire. Like I can do all these different colours. Desire. And when you say desire, do you mean desire is faith? Or that they're linked? Or
They're linked.
yeah.
Faith is desire. It's more faith is desire.
Yeah, more faith is desire, right? Rather than
Yeah.
desire is faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say faith is desire, what do you mean?
Well, I guess when you desire something so much, like you're putting a lot of faith into that thing that will come to fruition. So like, for example, you have a desire that you want to play the guitar, that one day you're going to be able to do that thing, and that's a faith. And it's your desire that pulls, like, drives you forward in that faith.
Yeah, yeah.
And helps you to take action on that. That's what I mean.
Yeah, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk about that as well. We'll go into like some detail about that. Anyone else? Faith? Cool. I think I've got a couple of other things that I wrote down here. Okay. Very similar to what you said, belief without proof, right? What we believe is possible even though we have yet to experience it. So we don't necessarily know for certain, right? Like true faith, like complete faith, like absolute faith, there is no question, it's a certainty, right? But faith has like differing degrees of faith. You can have zero faith about, let's say it's about the possibility of being at one with God on earth. Right? So when you first hear about it, you might have zero faith that something like that's actually possible. You might not even have any clue what the heck that means. And then when you find out about it, you might be like, oh, it's not possible. We might be like, oh, it's not possible for me. So you have absolutely zero faith on that issue. And then over time, through a series of different things, and then you start to listen to some more things. We'll talk about how to grow and develop faith in a positive direction in this talk, which is something I'm really excited about talking about. Your faith there's a seed of faith, and then it begins to grow, and it begins to grow, and it begins to grow. And if you personally choose to develop faith, it can grow more and more and more. So what does the law of attraction do?
It confronts you with how you are, your truth in this moment, how you are now.
Yep. So so it's a reflection of your soul condition. Yeah, you don't have to punish yourself, okay? So it's a reflection of what's going on inside of you, right? So as you start to exercise faith, your attraction, even though your underlying soul your underlying condition, your will, hasn't really changed, right? Just the fact that you've grown faith and you've grown desire for something, the law of attraction already responds to that. Well, it's the law of desire, right? The law of desire is responding and then attracting different things as a result, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool, which then helps you to grow even more even more faith. Does that make sense?
I got a little numbers, but
Yeah, we'll go into it more. Okay, cool. Now, the soul, this is sort of how I see it in a way. The soul's ability to live partly as your future self in the present moment. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The soul's ability to want something that maybe you and yourself right now this moment aren't ready for, but it's still sort of seeking.
Yeah, well, like
you will be in a few months, I think.
Yeah, like you don't believe it. But the thing is, when you connect to faith and you develop faith, it's possible to actually feel, take action, be in truth about something that is beyond your current condition by way of faith. So that part of your life, you can exercise faith and you can actually live as what your future condition will one day become.
So pretty much then that's how it kind of can override your current will.
Yes.
Your desire can override your current will.
Mm.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, your current will your current will is I don't want to have to feel painful emotion ever. Right. That might be your will. Never gonna feel I hate feeling it. Right. That might be how you feel. But then you started to grow this desire and a tiny little mustard seed of faith that maybe it's possible I can have a relationship with God that's heart to heart. And even though my will is, I refuse to feel emotion because of this faith now, suddenly I'm on the floor and I'm bawling my eyes out, there's snot going everywhere and I'm in agony emotionally and it's flowing out of me. I'm like, how did that happen? When my will was faith and desire. That's how it happened. So you can see how important it is for us to understand faith. Right. Now, this is something that I also learned recently from Jesus. What we believe is true for ourselves now and also in the future. Right? So faith might be, I'll always be alone in the end. So that's an unloving faith, right? That's a corrupt faith. The kind of faith that I'm talking about, that I'm really excited to develop and I really want to develop, is I'm going to correct all of those corrupt faiths. What I'd like to focus on is faith in God's love. That God is loving. Faith in God's laws. That they work, that they're reliable, that they always function, that they have my best interest built into the working and the design of the laws. Faith in God's principles. Faith in God's truth. right? Just basically faith in growing God's way. Who feels like slowly over time, over the last like few weeks, like couple of months, they've been developing more faith in growing God's way?
Over the last few years.
Over the last few years, right? Yeah. Maybe I don't know what you've been up to over the last few weeks, Katie, but I feel like over the last few months and the last year, definitely I've seen that. Yeah. Now this is how Afra described it. Now this is why the guys in the play. Okay, so this was channeled in 1920 or maybe even no, it was early. It was in the 1880s. So this is like 130 years ago. This is how he describes it. What may be called a telemicroscopic faculty the soul discovers in the depth of being, which, when pressed into service, so we need to discover that faith is a thing, and then we also need to engage it, right? Which, when pressed into service, penetrates and illuminates the interior darkness and enables the soul to live in the future as if that future were already present. That's why I'm like, these books are amazing. Like, what an incredible way to describe faith. Yeah. Right. So, when we have faith that something can be true, we will begin to act in harmony with that. Does that make sense? Who's experienced that? Who didn't used to have faith they could be an actor?
Who used to?
Who didn't? Who didn't have any real faith that they could be an actor, that they could ever act at all, right? Who then started to develop some faith that maybe it was possible. It's happening right now for you, right? And so then who took some action about it? You, of course you did take some action about it.
Yeah, I failed in my action, so it's like technically I went backwards.
Well,
You technically still took action.
we'll technically, like you've had some experience. But what we do, now this is a great example, what we do is often our warped view of what love is and what truth is makes us add up the results from our experiments and our actions in a way that confirms the fear. Who does that a lot in their life?
Do I?
No, I don't know if you do.
Can you give us an example?
Yes. That my actions with romantic desire don't go the way that I want, and then I use that as more evidence to say that, see, look, why am I even bothering? It's never going to work out for me. I'm never going to be in that relationship that I desire.
Not yet.
Well, yeah, but the problem is I don't believe it yet at the moment with it much.
Yeah.
The faith that there might be such a thing as a yet for me with this issue is it's teeny tiny. So when we have very little faith that a loving outcome is possible, now we're going to not really take very, very much loving action either. Okay. I feel like what I want to do is talk a little bit about faith and God. Okay. So who grew up in an environment that promoted the truth that God is absolutely loving?
What's defined as absolute loving?
Has a deep emotion of love, personal love for you, and wants a relationship with you in which that love is given to you. Not much, eh?
No.
Yeah. Who feels that God, who has experienced receiving love from God?
I think so.
Well, we believe so.
Yep. Right. So, for people that have experienced receiving love from God, it's not just something you've been told. So you can be told something, right? You can be told that like, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going with this. I'm just going to follow my instinct to go in this direction. But, so you can be told that God is good, right?
Yeah.
Were your parents good?
No.
They taught you everything about what love is, right? Basically. Or what love isn't, really. So they define good already. So what is good, right, from God's perspective? When we say God's loving, what are some of God's qualities? Kind, compassionate, patient, understanding, reliable,
constant.
not just consistent, but constant, right? Passionate, curious about us too, like desirous to know us. Yep.
Giving.
Honest.
Very honest.
Gentle. Nurturing. So when we say, oh, okay, God's good. How many of us have experienced these kind of qualities from people on earth on a regular basis? Particularly when we were growing up.
Oh, no.
At times.
At times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, often what will happen is you see a person in life, right? And they'll go along and they fucking treat themselves like a piece of shit all the time. Right? And then they meet one person who truly loves them. One person who really has faith that they are good. And their whole life changes. Right? What do you think that is?
Faith.
Faith?
Ah.
Yeah, it's because of faith. Right?
Yeah.
How awesome is that? That's like a great demonstration of the power of faith. Because when they started treating you like you were a good person and that you were worth love, you might not necessarily have believed them at the beginning, right? And like probably for quite a long time, every time that person tries to be loving to you, you're like, you just avoid it and you'll be like, yeah, nah, oh yeah, shit, I'll fucking get out of here. Thanks. I remember like one of my friends was like, doesn't matter how much you try, man, I'm never gonna love myself, you should just give up. And I was like, no. Because I've learned from God that God doesn't give up, you know? So that's the effect that engaging with a person who is mildly good, mildly reliable, mildly believing in your goodness, that's the kind of positive effect that can have, right, in a person's life. And like, who's seen evidence of that, like a number of times to know that it happens in the world, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So what do you think might just be possible if you start engaging a relationship with the big guy? You know? Because his good feelings about you are like, so far beyond what like a person on earth could ever feel for you. Right? And the cool thing is about like people who have a relationship with God is the more of God's love that they receive, you know, they're actually reflecting what God's love is for you too, at times, you know. So even that's a beautiful thing about God, that like God sends messengers and messages of God's goodness and God's love. And then, you know, you just might be in the right place at the right time with a little bit of an open heart just to get a glimpse from that person about how God feels about you. So like God has like thousands of ways to get the message of, I love you, not this other stuff that the world's taught you. No, I love you. And I want to give my love to you. You know, like, and that I know that you are good. You know? And all these other ways that people have treated you in your life, all the terrible things that people have done to you, wasn't because you are bad. They just treated you like that. So then God wants you to start to have just a tiny bit of faith that might be true, right? And then as a result of having just a little bit of faith that maybe it's true, then we start taking some actions and we take loving action, and then we start to engage living in truth a lot more about stuff, you know, little bit by little bit, this issue. We start engaging humility about different things as well. And they're the four tools, basically. Faith, loving action, humility, and truth. And they all work together. That's why it's kind of weird to sort of just talk about like one of them. So, if you just get like a tiny bit of faith, even, that God is good, and like you really feel it, and then you begin to engage a relationship with God, and then evidence builds over time, that is really going to pull you along. Faith and desire, like desire for the desire for a condition, and then faith that it's possible for a brighter future condition that you can have, is the thing that will drive you. It will drive you through, you will go through the resistance, you know, you'll give up the resistance, you'll feel whatever's in the way. You know, you will take loving action, as terrifying as it might be. You will be terrified, but you're like, because of that faith, you're gonna do the thing that makes you terrified, and you'll be like, whatever. I was like that this week. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. You know, but like, because of my faith in God's love and in God's goodness and in God's truth specifically, you know, I got attacked this week for being in truth, right? And you know, like, I you know, I'm trying to say it as a sailor's term, not as a sexual thing, but like, blow me sideways, like I couldn't stop. You know, like I couldn't not be in truth in that moment, no matter, like, I had my life threatened by someone, but I couldn't stop, you know, because I was just like, because of faith, because I knew how important it was to be in truth in that moment. That's because of my faith in God's love that I did that. Yeah, she's been very good to me. So who has some issues at the moment that they feel they have some faith that God really isn't that good? Yeah. So, some of you guys would have heard this before, but like, so, they're connected to me personally. Yeah. So I used to live like on a farm, grew up on a farm, and we were living on the banks of a lake that used to be pink. It's not anymore, but it was for a while. And basically, there was a long, like 20-minute drive to get into the town. And then, you know, as you go around the lake, there's this big hill, and then there was this really cool, like gnarly looking bush track off to the left. So the lake's on the left, and then you go up the hill, or you can do, instead of going up the hill, you can go around like the banks of the lake, right? And it's this cool salt lake, and there's these marshes, and there's like paper bark trees, and it's awesome. And I was like, I want to go there, I want to go there, I want to go. Like, I want to do it, right? And then, so finally my mum relents in the 4-wheel drive. So we get in the 4-wheel drive, mum puts it into the 4-wheel drive. So I'm like, yeah, gonna get what I want. And then we get a flat tire right in the middle. And no one ever goes on this track ever. Like, it's just a not done thing, right? Yeah. And then my mum goes, you know what? If God exists, he hates our family more than anyone else. What's that going to do to a little boy's like faith that God loves, or faith that God will love him specifically? Right? Just crush it. So for a long time, any kind of spiritual path that I engaged was like, God, see you later. Like, get that shit away from me, right? And I believe that we're all God, and like, you know, like we're all oneness here, and like blah 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 blah. And probably if I hadn't have had that, and if I hadn't received a lot of like, who's you know a gay soul here, or feels like maybe they might be, you know, who has felt homophobic attack before? Who's received like homophobic attack? Yeah. So often homophobic attack can also dampen your faith that God might love you personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're one of those kind of people. Because the church is like, no, God don't like that, right? You're like, whoa. Who spent a lot of time trying to not be gay? They're like a lot, right? You know? And often this is because it's like, well, you know, if God can't love me like this, then no one can. So, you know, suddenly there's like, why would you want to have faith that God even exists? Whose parents consistently let them down? Right?
I'm living all about it, so I can't do it.
You know it's true. Right? Right, so your parents constantly let you down. Whose parents were absolutely unreliable when it came to certain things in life? Inconsistent emotionally, dishonest, angry and abusive. You right? Who trusts their parents? Like really trusts them? Okay.
I used to.
Yeah, you used to. Right.
Wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm. So what happens, and this is how I was listening to Jesus talk about this today, is what happens to us a lot is over time. Because like when we start off, you know, like you're like, Mummy, why is the sky blue? And she just says whatever she wants to say. Are you gonna like, oh, cool. Nikki, would you mind just checking to say, or be whoever, just to see if the audio is still recording from the task cam?
Yep.
It's still going across?
Yep.
What, is it on 42 minutes now or something?
39, 40.
Is Matt in focus?
What?
Is Matt
On the camera, yeah, no, I should be.
Yeah, that's in focus. So if there's no headroom because you're sitting there.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll just do a zoom in later on. All right. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that it keeps going. Bede, would you mind checking in a couple more minutes? Because I think it cut out around 39 minutes.
Sure.
Thank you. Cool. Okay. Okay, what was I just talking about?
Our parents.
Yeah. So
Sky's blue.
yeah. So when you're little, you trust, right? Who had just like open-hearted trust when they were a kid? That's real sad.
I
Right?
believe that wasn't Pokemon Land, for real.
Yeah, right. So like people tell you things and you just believe it.
Yeah.
I look back thinking it's naive, eh?
People do things to you and you just think they're right to do it. Like you don't question because you don't have much sense of yourself yet or anything like that, and you haven't investigated a lot of things yet. You might feel that something's unloving or whatever, but so then over time what happens is trust gets eroded on this planet as it currently is, right? Because your parents are just like, you know, how's someone who's like basically they're in a hellish condition emotionally going to be a loving, reliable person who's going to help you to grow trust? Wildly imperfect person, right? Wildly imperfect. So then the subject of God comes along and it's like, how many times has our trust been hurt and abused and damaged? Because faith and trust are very related, right? Trust in something, trust in someone. Like for me, like my trust got ruined in so many different ways. Like, just the thing of like my dad, like the last time he saw me said like, you know, I'll see you next time. You know, like I love you and I will see you again, like, you know, and the kid's just like, well, okay, I believe you. And then that person never comes back. And it's like, oh, how are you going to have trust? Like, just that one event can make like a, you know, or like, I'm not going to hit you if you tell me the truth. Just tell me. And then you tell them the truth and then they hit you anyway. How much trust are you going to have to tell them the truth the next time? Fucking zero. If you're like, you know, you might feel bad for telling a lie, but you're like, I'm so glad I didn't get beaten right now. And you have no trust that what they say they do, they're ever going to do. So then God comes along, right? And you start getting information about God. Yeah. And then God's like, I love you. And you're like, yeah, next. Right? That's the attitude that we will definitely have. We're going to have that kind of attitude, right? And it's going to be shit. And then God's like, the law of attraction is definite. Like, it's absolute. And we're like, no. Who knew that they could negotiate different things with their parents in different ways and potentially and get away with it to an extent as well? Not for you, it's pretty ironclad, was it?
I was just too dumb to think I could negotiate. I was just like, those are the rules.
Rules.
I love rules.
Yeah.
Really,
You know what, like that's going to be great. Like as you start having a desire to obey loving laws.
Yeah, no, I guess it will.
Yeah.
They're the rules.
Yeah. So who tried to obey some unloving rules or some rules that had like potential really quite scary consequences and then failed and then got severely punished for it?
Yeah.
Like for breaking our parents' laws, who got punished for that? Who got punished for trying to follow our parents' laws and still not doing it the way they wanted us to do it? And then had to cop our parents' impatience and frustration and anger and all that kind of stuff, right? So then God comes along, God's like, I've got some laws. And you're like, fuck you. Right? That's the general attitude you're going to have. Like, fuck law. I don't want law. And then God comes along and God's like, if you want a relationship with me, you're going to have to feel your emotions. Because I only want an emotional relationship with you. I don't want an intellectual relationship with you. I want a relationship from my soul to your soul. And to do that, you're going to have to feel. And because you're in a lot of pain that you're denying, you're going to have to feel emotional pain. Right? And then you're like, well, I heard Jesus talking about this a bit today. Who sorry? Yeah. Fuck you. Right? Now, like, who's been crying in public recently? Yeah. Who's felt comfortable crying in public recently? Who felt comfortable the first few times they did it? Right? So it takes some time. What's the attitude of the world towards, like, let's say I'm walking along and I've got a terrible limp, right? People are just going to accept it, right? They can accept that you're in physical pain, right? At least to some extent. And you get an experience of it when you do impeds because you take an impediment out and you see how people treat you differently. You know, if you've got like all scabs on your face, then maybe not. They'll be like, is this person doing ice? Or, you know, they'll be like, am I safe? Blah, 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 blah. How safe do people feel around when you're like moaning and sobbing or shaking? Like I was shaking in terror all the way home from like entertainment quarter, all the way on the bus, all the way on the train, like shaking and like blubbering a little bit and then shaking and oh, actually, like having all this fear come out of me on the weekend, right, on Sunday. Yeah, people were not okay with that at all. They were freaking out. And then I got off the train and then they were like, we can take you to the toilet so you can calm down. And I'm like, I don't need to calm down. I'm afraid. I want to be afraid. Like, right?
Yeah, they freak out.
Yeah, so the world's like, no, when it comes to emotional pain. And God's like, yes, feel it. Feel it, feel it, feel it. Because the more of this that you feel, the more of my truth and my love, is possible for you to receive. So we're going to have much faith that it's like worthwhile to do that when the whole world's against it. So basically what I'm trying to highlight is there's a lot of reasons that do exist in this world for people to never develop faith in God's goodness. Right? That God's laws are real, that there is worth in engaging God's laws around humility. Right? That God has a desire for us, that God's nature is good, that God is reliable. Right? So then it's like, well, shit, what do we do? And how do I know what my current faith is as well? So I'll go back to my little sheet. So read off it. Right. Cool. So faith pulls us forward. But which direction is our current faith driving us? Who feels like their current faith is driving them in a relatively positive direction? Who feels like it's driving them in a negative direction, their current faith? Right. So that lets you know that your current faith basically is in disagreement with God. People who don't exercise the development of faith in a positive direction rarely develop or create much in their lives. Right? Because why would you? If you don't think anything beautiful is going to come out of it, why would you ever? There'd be no reason. You wouldn't take any chances, you wouldn't take any risks. Because you don't think anything good's going to... You have no belief at all, no faith at all that anything good even might come out of it. Now, like a lot of people, like yourself, like myself, like yourself, Katie, as well. Is it still recording the sound? Yeah, cool. Have been like taught almost that like we're the worst person in the world, right? There's been some emotions that have been projected at us like that. So if you feel that you are the worst person in the world, it's very, very hard for you to have any faith that anything positive is ever going to happen to you. So you might even see evidence of that happening to other people, but if you believe you're the least worthy person on the entire planet, then it's going to be very hard for you to carry that faith of seeing it happen in others across to yourself. So, you might actually see other people grow pretty rapidly in different ways, but you're not. And you're like, why aren't I growing so fast? Because you feel so terrible about yourself. And because you've been trained to believe that you're nothing, right? All right. Now I think we kind of had a bit of a chat about this, but I'll go over it again. How was your faith developed in you as a child? Really? No, it wasn't, right? Like, was your faith in positive things nurtured? In some ways? Can you see that, like, if faith is one of the foremost powerful tools we can ever develop to grow, and not just like, let's take God out of the equation. Even if you grow on the natural love path, developing faith is essential. Otherwise, you'll never take any action. Otherwise, you'll never feel anything. It's really good to hear B cry. So then what kinds of things were you encouraged to believe that still dominates your life and choices now? What kind of things about your worth, your nature, your capabilities, your qualities? So, if you were taught that, like, you're nothing without me, and you have that faith inside of you, then you will act as if that's true. Until, there's this tiny little bit of faith that comes along that says, well, maybe I am something, just me, just myself. So what you can also do as well is you can ask God and be like, God, show me all my corrupt faith, show me all my dodgy faith, please. And God will be like, with pleasure. I was waiting for you to ask for this one for a long time. Now I'm going to give it to you. I found that out on the weekend because I was like literally like the exact thing that I talked about last week, like in the session, exact thing happened to me. Because I connected to the emotion and God's like, oh, it's active now. You want truth on this. You've even said that it happened and this is the emotion. Let's do it, right? Yeah. So I'm getting like assaulted by someone on the train to help me to connect to that, and it's real sad that it took that kind of an event for me to actually go like, oh, this is way bigger and way worse than I've been saying and feeling. Like it goes far, even though I was saying it goes far deeper, that was still an intellectual thing compared to what it really is.
Assaulted or insulted?
Assaulted. Got punched in the face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that as well. Sorry, I'll keep going. Right. What experiences, and I wouldn't, it'd be good for you guys maybe to have a look at this and actually go through this and actually as some homework. What experiences eroded your ability to trust in others' actions, honesty, sincerity, and love? So we talked about that a little bit, right? But actually go through and be like, what were some of the experiences? Like one of the really terrible things is like when a parent physically abuses you and then claims to love you at the same time. It's terrible, right? And just by the way, God is trustworthy, honest, reliable, sincere, always follows through. Always follows through. God's caring. God is respectful. God is consistent and, of course, loving. Now, most people on earth have very rarely come across any of those qualities in other people. Yeah, I'm really lucky that I've got a friend like you, Faith, because I feel like you've shown me a lot of these qualities. And because of that, it's helped me grow faith that God has them too. It's been real great having a friend like you. So then we go, well, how do I measure what my current faith is? Our thoughts, feelings, actions, attitudes in particular is a big one. Our motivations and our attractions constantly demonstrate what we currently have faith in. So it's being shown to us all the time what our faith is. But what happens is so for instance, I have faith that a man's never going to love me. That's my current faith still. I still feel like a man is never going to be able to truly love me as an individual. Yeah, sorry, just... So then every time a man doesn't love me as an individual, I just stack that up and I go, see God, what the fuck are you know? What do you know about this? Told you this was going to happen. Instead of God being like, the law of attraction is trying to show you the error. It's not the truth, it's the error. You're like, nah, this is the truth, see? I even came again, see, I got rejected again, Instead, God's like, That's not the God doesn't get impatient. God's like, no, that's not the message of truth here, Matt. You're trying to twist the event to suit your fear. So you use the event that happens to reinforce your fear. Nicoletta's like, I got that one covered. I know all about that, right? I do that every day, right? Instead of allowing the attraction just to bring the emotion up inside of us. Get the heck out of our head and just allow ourselves to feel, and for it to reveal how we really feel inside. Does that make sense, buddy?
So
Yeah.
the law of attraction event shows and represents the error in our lives.
Yep. It's a reflection of what is going on inside of us. And also God's truth is shown as well. So for instance, you might have this feeling that women feel that
They can take control of life.
women feel that I don't have much real value.
Yeah.
Unless I'm doing something for them, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say you have that feeling, like you can have someone come up and continue to treat you like that. And then you can turn around and say, see, God, here, look, here's more proof that this is only ever going to happen to me. When God's like, I'm like, the law's to help you feel the emotion that that's happening. And then another woman comes along, right? And she's like, you are so beautiful. And I really value you. And you see in all the ways that she treats you, that she truly values you as a human being, right? And then we go, oh, cool, I don't have to feel about that now. So we use it to still not confront the error. Does that make sense?
I do that too.
So, because like both things are part of the law of attraction. So the law of attraction can be shown to you by someone treating you in an unloving way, but the exact same error can be shown to you by someone treating you in a loving way. But the issue is the error inside of you.
Wait, so you're saying that when the seemingly good partner comes along,
Yep.
that's bad?
No, it's not saying it's bad. It's saying let the person having a passionate desire for you allow that thing to like connect to you emotionally, to activate the feelings that are inside of you, and let yourself feel it. Feel how that makes you feel.
Okay.
Like I know when I've received like the first time I remember like I met Jesus and like had a bit of a talk and stuff like that, and later in the day he said bye to us after like addressing an issue about 3 people were standing together. He's like, you guys have all got this injury around women, right? and we're like, and he's like, I love you guys. I've never ever had any person ever say to me that they love me and mean it like he did. There was no, does that make sense? There was no real feeling that like, it was just empty in my whole life until that moment. And then I let that hit me and I went away and bawled my fucking eyes out. I didn't go, oh, finally, yeah, I can see that. That shows that I am worthy of love. Great. Because that's just an intellectualizing it. So we're very motivated most of the time to use what we attract as like as a way of reinforcing error and reinforcing corrupt faith. You had something to
So
add?
like it's a bit like receiving God's love. Like it will stir in you all of these feelings
Yeah. That you haven't been loved.
that you haven't been.
Yeah, that's like a big reason why you bawl your eyes out when you receive love from God. Because you've never ever been loved by it like that before. Let me tell you, you never ever felt it like that before from God. Like it is from God, rather. And then in that moment, as you receive love from God, you realize all those other times it wasn't love. And you realize, little bit by little bit that, I'm lovable. Because I'm receiving love from God right now. So then what we can do as well is like all of these really beautiful experiences that we are that are coming to us that are an affirmation of God's truth about how God really feels about us, we can add those up in a positive way. So, let's say we wanted to develop faith that there is such a thing as God's personal love for me. All the people that I know who've experienced that, I could go around and interview them. I could sit down, I could get a phone out, I could press record, and I could say, can you tell me all about every time that you can remember receiving God's love, please? And then just listen. Right? And you can go find the next person and do it with them as well, and just listen. And then you can go and find some stories about some Muslim people, some individuals in the Muslim faith that had a very deep belief that Allah was loving, right? That God is loving, and they felt a connection with God. And then they went and did these really beautiful things, and they talk about love all the time. You're like, oh wow! And then you go and you have a look in the Hindu faith, and then you find some people who are just all about love, and they talk about God, and that God loves. And then you go find some Christians who are doing the same thing, and you're just and you listen to their voice when they're talking about it, and you're like, fuck, this is compelling. So I take action to stack up some evidence here to develop the beginning of the faith, because all we need is enough faith at the beginning that we begin to actually act as if something is true in our own life. So in order to move in that direction, one of the big things that we have to do is, we can do if we want to, is go away and use our will to investigate, to do research. So who does research about how amazing and beautiful God is? Not a heap, even myself, not a heap. Sometimes what I do though, I'm eating food, I'm looking at a leaf, I'm doing this, I see beauty in a human being, and I allow all of those things to stack up to be here's more evidence of how beautiful God is. Here's more evidence of how loving God is. Oh, I saw a person work through an issue and then this is what they attracted. Here's more evidence that God's laws work. And then it becomes so strong. For me, one of the things that I have absolute certainty about now, it's true faith in me now, is that if I want to know any truth about anything, God will bring it to me. I know that as a faith, as an absolute, it's a fact, But I didn't know if I really believed that at the beginning. Part of what helped me is that I had such a desire for truth. Maybe not to feel it or to necessarily act on it, but at least to hear it, know it at the beginning, and then over time that's deepened. And thanks to your help recently as well, it's helped. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. Right, so we'll continue with faith. Faith and desire are very linked. We can say we want something or want to develop something, but if we do not have faith it's possible, we will not follow through on loving action or humility or living in truth. Right? And sometimes we might have faith that something's possible. I don't think we'd have strong faith in something positive and no desire. I feel like desire comes first. Some desire, some interest in it, right? Some interest in some experience, some truthful, loving progress that you might be able to make, right? Yeah. And then it's so you can grow desire, but if you've got certain feelings in you that are absolute, rock solid, I believe that this is the way that it is and this is the truth about that area, you might develop a big desire about it, but don't have a heap of faith. Now, what also happens in that process as well is your desire is still quite twisted and warped because you haven't engaged your process to allow that to be refined over time. So the trick is, Don't let your desire go to waste. Develop faith around the things that you have desire for. But not the dodgy faith that the world's going to try and force into you. But actually be like, well, I've been accepting the world's faith on things and the world's beliefs on things all my life, and this is where I'm at. Is this what I want to continue to experience, or do I want to do something different here? Be like, it's okay to experiment. It's okay to fuck things up. It's okay to make a total mess of things as well. It's fine. You know? Like, oh. So, like with my ex-wife, I'd been looking at like gay pornography, during our marriage. And then I learned from AJ that like living in truth is essential. Right?
Living in truth is, sorry, what?
Essential.
Essential.
It's essential if I want to have a relationship with God. So I was like, fuck, I want to have a relationship with God. I want to be loving. And then I was like, there's all this like dark secrets that I'm keeping from my wife. All these things that she doesn't know that I'm doing, and that like, and she doesn't know why I don't have like a sexual desire for her, and she's feeling terrible, and she's feeling like it's her fault, and like what's she doing wrong and stuff like that. And then it's like eventually like so I didn't say truth for a while, and that caused so much suffering and pain for both of us. And particularly for her, because I didn't give her the truth to give her an opportunity to make any kind of different choice. Right? So then eventually, I chose to tell her the truth. She went ballistic. She was devastated. She raged around the house, and one of the few times that I really saw her process some anger and like was just in a massive rage, No, and then like I not too long after that, as a result of her finding out like what I'd been engaging in and how unloving that was, then I wasn't having a relationship with my daughter. I wasn't having any kind of friendship with my ex-wife anymore and stuff like that. So I could have looked at those things and gone, I should never tell the truth again. Because look at this terrible thing that happened. This is where we've got to be so careful, because our view of things can be so warped that we just keep adding it up wrong. Instead of going, this is the consequence of 4.5 years of lies. So this is proof that living in truth is the way. So we've got to be so careful, because any chance that we get to tell ourselves a porcupine about something, we're going to do it, right? Because it's going to get us away from pain. Yeah. Right. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to go through this a little bit more, and then we're going to move on to loving action. How do we change our faith in a positive direction? Well, it's the other 3 tools, basically. So I've got an example. So like one way is engaging in truth. So for instance, you may feel that God is a bully. Who has felt in their life that if God exists, he's probably a bully? Yeah. Because God's like, you fuck up, you go in hell forever. How is that not a bully?
That's true.
It's the ultimate bully. The ultimate act of bullying a person is sending them to hell for eternity. Right? So, you can go and look for a whole lot of evidence to support that God's a bully. You can go and hang out with some like super fundamentalist Christians and fundamentalist people of other faiths who are like, fire and brimstone and talk about the end of the world every 10 seconds and like blah, blah, blah. And that, like you must repent, otherwise you'll burn forever and Satan's trying to control the universe and all these kind of things. And then you're going to grow your faith that that's true. Or you can use your desire and take action to investigate the possibility of loving truths. Research, look back at your own life and others. Be like, how many times has God specifically picked me out of the crowd and personally bullied me? I've never had that happen. How many times has God attacked me? Never. How many times has God been mean to me? How many times has God put me down? How many times have I seen God put other people down? I mean, I've seen religious people put people down, but have I seen God do it personally? Have I felt a feeling from God of like, you piece of shit? No? Okay. So then I'm like, okay, so who has experienced and created what I desire personally? So who feels that God's the opposite of a bully? And I'll go and talk to them a bit. And be like, engage. Like, I just want to discuss this now. And then you question, you'd be like, right, have I come to false conclusions maybe in my life? Like, why them? Why are they feeling that? And then I'm feeling something bad about God. So, we go through a process. And as I said, you can stack up positive experiences in a way that helps to build faith. And then what's important to note is that God's truth can never enter your soul unless you experience it. And you will never experience it unless you engage faith. So when you have faith that something might be true, that truth isn't in your soul yet. It hasn't entered your soul as a truth yet. You don't know it as a certainty. Like I said before, I know that if I have any desire for truth from God, that I am going to receive it. Like that's in my soul as a truth. There's nothing that I won't find out. There's just nothing. Like even this issue that I'm like, with relationships and stuff like that, like I know that God's trying to get the truth to me. And I'm resisting it. Like I don't have less faith that God isn't trying to get truth to me. I know that He is. I know that I'm resisting it. Right? So often we're like, I'm not finding truth out about these things. It must be God. Instead of going, well, why don't I just assume God's perfect? And go, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Yeah. You can experiment and you can make mistakes, as I said before, and you can feel through your resistance to growing positive, loving, truthful faith. Right? So that's the humility part of it. So let's say I feel that God's a bully. Well, as well as taking action and doing all these other things that you can do, the other thing that you can do is just engage humility and feel that God is a bully. Don't just say, yeah, I feel God's a bully. Be like let yourself experience the emotions of that feeling that God is a bully. And let yourself go through that process of feeling like that God's a bully. Right? Because if you really engage it, it will be released from you. So I feel that God's a bully. I have some desire to confront whether that might not be true. It might be true or might not be true. Right? So I'm now going to feel. I'm going to engage humility. Yeah. Yes. Humans of Earth often add up past experiences specifically to minimize our need to engage forgiveness and repentance. Does that make sense? Yeah. We rarely add up past experience with God for positive purposes. As I said, instead we often use what happens in our own life and in the world incorrectly. And what we do a lot of the time is we incorrectly attribute things that have happened in the world, bad things that have happened into the world, to God, and bad things that have happened in our own life to God. Who does that sometimes? Who's like, well, why does God let that happen? Yeah. Who's done that, at least to some extent? And someone like you might be Christian or something like that, and a person comes up and they're like, how can you believe in the loving God? This war happens, babies get raped, these terrible things happen, right? And you're like, oh.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, well, it's a tough one if you have no faith that God's loving. But if you have faith that God's loving, you're like, yeah, that's people. That's what people do. It's not God, that's people. But that's what we do. We incorrectly attribute these unloving events and experiences to God. Mm-hmm. So if we do that, so let's say I attribute not being able to be with my soulmate let's say I attribute that to God, and I say, there's something in you and what's going on here that's stopping me from having what I want, and blah, 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 blah. Instead of it correctly attributing it to my choices, and also that there's a cause inside of me that's connected to both stuff with my mum and particularly stuff with my dad. Correctly attributing. So when we correctly attribute things, we're going to be forced to experience forgiveness now. Because when I just blame God, I don't have to feel. But when I'm like, no, my father raped me and abandoned me, and feel that that's actually what happened, that is going to be an emotional thing. And it's going to lessen the burden of my projection onto God. Not that God feels it as a burden, but it's a burden to the relationship developing. Now, here's a big one. We must come out of the position of being paralyzed by doubt. Who gets paralyzed by doubt a lot and then doesn't take action? Oh, no, not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. Around maybe 1 or 2 issues, but otherwise not.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no, I'm pretty keen to make. Yeah. Nicoletta's like, I am the Khaleesi of that. Right? So,
Can we do, before you start doing that, can we have a quick break, maybe water, toilet break?
I've literally got one. I've got like one more point to make, and then we're right on that. Thanks, Nikki. Okay, so that means feeling through what paralyzes doubt, and these are some of the things that we need to feel through, is our feelings of being disappointed in the past in our lives, the letdowns that we've received, because these are all things that have damaged our trust and our faith that God can be good, our setbacks, being lied to, being manipulated by people, being used by people, being told half-truths, having secrets kept from us, being cornered, being silenced, right? Being coerced, being bribed, being blackmailed. You think of all the times that that's actually been done to you, particularly by people who claim to love you. Even at school, like people bribe you and then punish you, which is blackmail, right? So all of those things are going to prevent you from they're going to keep you in doubt. When you hold on to them and you want to believe, no, this is fine, no one did anything wrong, and just be in complete emotional denial that any of those things happen, you're also in complete emotional denial that you have no sense of openness and trust towards anyone, and particularly God. So you can be in complete denial that you have no trust in God and not even know it. Wait, let me explain that. You can have zero trust in God and be in complete denial of that even existing in you. So you could be like, yeah, I trust God. But actually inside of you, I don't trust a fucking person on this planet.
Yeah,
And particularly
so
that
true.
motherfucker.
Yeah. So true.
It's so true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you used to say that you had faith in God, right? And trust in God way back.
Yeah.
When you were Mormon.
Yeah.
Did you?
No. I hated God. I discovered I hated God when I became real about my feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of the times right before I've received... Sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead,
I
love.
was going to say, even when I first, started listening to Divine Truth, I thought, I love God, I'm in a relationship with God. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't at all.
Often right before I've had a big breakthrough, I've said this before as well, I was literally talking to God and I was like, I fucking hate you. I hate your truth. I don't want you. I don't believe you're loving. You're shit. Right? Because that were actually my true feelings. That was my true faith about God at that point, but I was letting myself move through it emotionally, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, God's like, poof, here's the love, and I'm like, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I love you. Yeah. It was literally a minute beforehand, you were hating them, but you got it out, and then God's like, great. Whoosh. Like now you're like, because you're actually becoming
Real and physical.
real and real, emotionally real. So you're in truth and you're also being humble as well. And then lastly, we must come into the position of faith. Well, we can. It's up to us if we want to. Cool. Does anyone have any questions before you go on break? All right, cool. So we'll do a little break and then we'll go back and we'll just talk about loving action. I'll try and make it not too long. Okay, cool. So loving action. Loving action is an interesting one and it's essential for growth. If we never act, there is no way that truth can get into our heart. I feel like that's like super important. Right? So if there is no action that I take in a loving direction, that truth will never be able to become a reality in my heart. It will never enter my soul. So just on that alone, if you want to grow God's way, if you want truths in your heart, in your soul, in you, you're going to have to take some action. Who avoids taking loving action?
So does that mean I have to tell my mum how I feel?
Do you want to tell your mum how you feel?
Sometimes.
Do you feel like it would be loving to tell your mum how you feel?
Well, if I tell her, then she can do something about it. But she probably won't want to do something about it.
Well, you can give her the opportunity. You can say, hey, there's some things I want to talk about. So even that's a loving act, right? You go and because you don't necessarily want to go down and like kick the door in and be like, you fucking bitch, here I've got this old belt, this is what you did to. Obviously, like that's not super loving, right? Yeah, I remember like I was processing through some stuff about my mum, some anger with my mum, and Jesus was like, yeah, Matt, you don't need to actually project it at them. Like, you can just feel how angry you actually are. I was like, oh, okay, right. You don't want to be like, this is your face I'm destroying. No, that's not loving. But at the beginning, like, we've got fucking barely, like, because we're in not a super loving state, right? So we've got barely any clue what loving is. What love really is. So we're going to make a bunch of mistakes by taking action. But the thing is, if we don't take action, we'll never know whether that feeling in us, that impetus, that desire to do anything was loving. You will never know unless you take the action. Like the old Daryl Summers and Annie Dingo thing, like if you never go, then you'll never know, right? It's true about loving action. Like if you never act, then you'll never grow. Who wants to grow?
Yeah. Even in life, I wouldn't mind growing.
Yeah, I'd love to grow. I want to grow. I love growing. Who's afraid of taking loving action? This is where we have the dilemma. Because God's like, they are one and the same. We're like, ooh, can't I just grow without having to take loving action? And therein lies our issue, right? Right. So, who takes loving action on all of their passions? I'm starting to get that way. More and more.
I feel like taking action, whether or not it's loving.
But you are taking action on all of your passions, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're not taking action which you know for certain to be unloving, are you? No. So you don't know whether it's loving or not, so you take action. This is how we learn. This is how we grow. The only way we'll refine desire inside of us is by taking action. Cool. All right, I'm going to read off this a little bit. So yes, action is a vital part of growth in both the natural and divine love parts. So for anyone who, if you don't want to have a relationship with God, but you're just listening to this, like, you won't be able to grow personally, like emotionally, unless you take some action as well. So it doesn't just apply to God's way of growing, but just the natural love way of growing as well. You will have to take some action. You know, it can't just be a pie in the sky idea. It's got to be something that you actually do something about. You know, so I have a desire that I have a feeling that I'd like to be an opera singer. Then I'm gonna take some action about it, and then or not. You know, and then I'm presented with multiple opportunities and different things that I attract. Like recently when I was doing an Uber thing, there was this lady who's an opera singer. She's like, yeah, well, you know, I really want to learn some acting. I was like, cool. I was like, I really love to learn to sing better as well. And she's like, I'd love to teach you to sing. I was like, yeah, cool. I didn't message when my phone died, but I didn't follow through with that. So I had a perfect opportunity present to me and I didn't take any action on it, you know. Something that often we're not connected to the stakes of taking action and not taking action as well. Something that I heard from Jesus and I felt very resistant to is that some opportunities that come to us will only ever be presented to us once on earth.
He said that?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Mm. But that's part of consequences of us not taking any action. Basically. So, because often what we do is we try and minimize the consequences of not taking action. Or the consequences of continuing unloving action. Who does that? Who tries to minimize their feeling, their sensitivity to the consequences of their actions?
Me. I did it last
Yeah. Yep. Who eats things that they know are not good for them?
I did that.
Yeah, today, yes, you're exactly right. And we are minimizing the consequences of that. Who feels that eating really loving food for themselves would be positive for their body?
I mean,
Who's
intellectually.
intellectually, right? Who's consistently taking loving action about that all the time?
Dude, how can you not?
95%. I just sometimes like chocolate, mate. Not that often.
Yeah.
I can't say it's all the time.
All the time, but a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
A lot of the time.
I'm not super much.
This is good.
To some extent I am, but I'm still a mess with it. But so what stops us from taking loving action then?
What's the thing?
Fear.
An addiction.
Yeah. Great. Spot on. It's true, yeah. Fear and addiction, you know. And addiction is driven by fear, by a refusal to experience fear. Right. So what's fear?
False
From God's perspective, yeah?
expectations appearing real.
Yeah. So everything that we fear, God knows isn't true. And the reason it produces an emotion of that we call fear inside of us is it's designed like that, so it indicates to us that something that it isn't true. Right? So God's designed it and He's built into His system with humility and His laws that if you are feeling an emotion of fear, something that's going on inside of here is way not true. From my perspective, when I say that, God's from my perspective, what you believe right now, what you're holding on to, what you're in resistance of, isn't the truth. You know, what you're in resistance in, rather, is not a truth here. Because and the way you know it is because you are experiencing fear. Right?
Is there such a thing as a lack of willingness to feel fear?
Yes.
Fear. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. So, often because we have faith that feeling fear is only going to give us bad things, and we won't be able to survive it and it's going to kill us, etc., 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 we won't allow ourselves to experience the fear. So, who was afraid at different moments in their childhood? Like really, like quite terrified about things? Who was encouraged to let themselves soften into and experience that fear?
Like who allowed themselves to do it?
Yeah, who was encouraged
Who was
to feel that fear?
Oh no.
No.
No way.
No way, right?
You
No
start
way.
and then you get stuck.
So like, you know, for myself, like being afraid that, well, I'll always be an outcast. Like, because that's a feeling that my mum has as well. For me to actually like express and feel that I'm just always going to be an outcast and no one's ever really going to want me, etc., etc. Like, that is not something that my mum wants me to feel. And like often what would be put into us, and this is what drives the refusal or the lack of willingness to feel fear, is because when I did feel fear, and this is what I'm saying, when we did feel fear in our childhood, the result was that we were completely attacked and punished and shut down, right? And so then fear becomes this dirty word that we're terrified of engaging. This dirty thing that we're just like, nah. And this has been one of my biggest things. I have really, really struggled to feel fear. It took me like going to court and like having serious legal problems and like really looking in the face of like a disastrous future for myself, you know, for me to really just connect to some fear. But even then, the situation forced it upon me. Does that make sense? It's only just in the last week or so that I'm actually allowing myself to experience fear, not just because of action, but like actually allow myself to experience fear. It's taken me 10 years. I could have done it a lot faster, but I just decided not to. I feel like it's probably loving maybe to ask the guys maybe to go into your room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
just because it's so loud that like it's...
I think there's one in there.
Oh, is it?
No,
I think Ben's out there with one. Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking that, and I was just like,
Yeah, so you stopped yourself from taking action.
yeah.
Yeah, because
I didn't know if it was
they
lucky
could
or not.
potentially go there, or they could potentially go on the balcony around the other side as well,
Yeah.
because there's very rarely anyone out there. Yeah.
Ah, yes. No, it makes sense.
Mm.
For what we're talking about in the car. Just take action.
Yeah.
Is not taking action taking action?
Yes.
Wow, that's just made more confusing.
Yeah. Hi there.
Jump in the room. It's all good.
Yeah, no worries. Yep. Keep feeling. No problem.
So you've only just recently, like took you 10 years, you said, to start experiencing fear. Any
tips? Huh?
Any tips? Yeah. Sure.
Someone would have said feelings.
It's really
unwilling.
it's really quite interesting.
Cool.
Sorry.
That's all right. For me, have I allowed myself to? I don't feel really that's much better. I feel like it's still going to make it hard for people listening afterwards. We might just
We
pause
could
it.
take a quick 10-minute time out for everyone to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Time
well,
out for feeling, it's fine. We're having time.
Take a bit of a time out, that's fine. All right. So now one of the other ways that we can connect to fear, by the way, is by challenging our addictions. Does that mean there's still more noise?
Isn't there?
That's someone cutting up
Something.
something.
That's so weird.
In the middle of the night. Oh, it is what it is.
Going for a cut, yeah. What are you challenging your addiction?
Yeah, so like when you notice that you're in addiction about something,
Maybe I'm
like
coaching.
if you stop engaging that addiction, like you will become afraid because the addiction suppresses the fear.
Watch how many of my addictions came back in the last 3 weeks. All of them. So
Yeah, right. And that's how you suppressed your fear. And that's how you stayed in control of yourself emotionally, is you engaged addictions. Right?
Yeah.
Mm. And what happened right before that with you?
Oh, with breaking up with Harriet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that let you know?
I was just hiding from dealing with the fears, the
Yeah.
emotions.
But what that also lets you know, because the fears have always been there, that the relationship helped you do that.
No, I missed it. Wait.
So the addictions in the relationship
Yeah.
helped you avoid the fear, and then you got out of the relationship, so then you went and grabbed some other addictions to help you avoid those same fears. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good thing not to attack ourselves and blame ourselves about it. But you know, this is a reality of what we do. And what we'll do for quite a while, like on the path, particularly when we don't have much faith yet, is we'll just bounce from addiction to addiction and we'll be like, oh, I'm going to give up this addiction. But we're not honest with ourselves that we just go and engage another addiction. But if we really engage this cool tool, this awesome loving tool that God's created for us of loving action, wow. You know, we won't just jump to another addiction. And yes, we will feel our fear. Like sometimes I've just like been crossing an oval and I had no credit and I ran out of addictions to like help myself suppress, and I just like broke down and just sulked on the oval just because I had no way to get away from it. That's sad, like that it took that, but I'm lucky that it did, you know, and just finally let it out because I'm like desperately suppressing. I think that's what's happened recently. That's why I've connected with fear, is I've just got to certain moments and I'm just like, I'm not engaging in addiction to suppress it. I just can't. And then, now I'm in terror. Now, well, I don't know about full terror, but like I'm in fear now. I'm really feeling this fear, like it's moving through me. I'm dizzy and short-breathed and like all the tingly things, and I haven't experienced like the full shaky stuff yet. A bit, but not like massively yet. But yeah. So that's like a big one. All right. So what people normally do when it comes to action is we do the same thing we've always done, and then we expect a better outcome. Right? This is what we usually do. Who does this all the time? Same thing they've always done, hope for a different outcome, and then it doesn't come. Right? And we'll want to blame anything else, but we don't want to go, well, is the action that I'm currently taking really loving? Am I really being honest? Like, am I really like obeying God's laws here? Is it? And you know, we spent 4 weeks going through defining love of self. So we've got a bit of an understanding now of whether action that I'm doing, whether it is loving or not. You know, like we've grown in an ability now to measure that. So measure it. And then if you can clearly see that it's not loving, then it's like, well, what's my motivation for continuing to take this action? Can I take some action now? So, what are our beliefs about taking loving action? Because this is some of the serious problems that we face, right, with taking loving action. Will loving action be rewarded or punished?
Yeah.
Now, considering we live in a world which is predominantly like in a hellish condition, loving action is almost, not always, but close to always punished. Right? You get punished for doing the good thing a lot of the time, like the good thing from God's perspective. Not always. Definitely not always. But every person who's changed the world for the better, let me tell you, when they first started doing it, abso-fucking-lutely they did. They faced a huge amount of resistance, attack, abuse, violence, anything to shut down that action. You know? Will it lead to success? So if we feel that loving action will definitely not lead to success, we won't take it. See how loving action and faith are connected? So we've got to challenge, like if we feel, oh, look, I can feel that this is a loving thing, but I just feel like it's pointless. Why even do it? It's only going to give me bad outcome here. It's like me telling my ex-wife about like pornography stuff, right? I could not see a good outcome for that. But I just felt in my heart that being in truth was a loving thing, so I did it. Will I be supported? Will I be supported in my loving action? Right? You don't feel that you will, right? The truth is all of God's laws and God personally supports you 100% in your loving action. Certainly doesn't feel like that a lot of the time. So that's us telling ourselves a porky about it, or holding on to some corrupt faith about that. So very often, like particularly with our passions and desires, we express it with like, oh, I want to play the violin. Not allowed to play the violin. You know, oh, I have a crush on this boy. You know, mum's like, you're not allowed to have crushes on boys. It's not allowed. So I'm like, oh, I'm not supported, so fucked if I'm going to say anything. I might go off and engage sexually in a secret sort of way, but I'm not going to say to this boy like, Trent, I've got a crush on you, by the way. Hi, you know, like this is year 7. It's like social suicide, but I'm just going to tell someone that I have a romantic feeling for them. What will people think of me? When I take loving action, what will people think of me? Right? So I took loving action to set up these talks. I knew what people were going to think about me. I'm going to get up here and start saying that I know Jesus personally, and that I have a relationship with God, and that I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. What will people think of me was something that I did consider, you know, and I had to work through some fears about that. It took me years before I even left the Pulse. You know, even though the loving action was like well before I left, to have left, actually. You know, but I didn't leave. You know, because I was like, what will people think of me? What will Bill think of me? Am I going to lose Bill's love and respect? Like, how's it love and respect if it's conditional? I avoided that, you know. I was just focused on what's this person going to think of me? What are my friends going to think of me? This is the major problem with politicians on the planet. They can see what the loving thing to do is, but they're like, what will people think of me? And then they never do it because they're weak. Like, that's real weakness, actually. The refusal to do the loving thing is weakness. People are like, oh, no, being emotional is weak. It's not. Being emotional is strong as well. Like, powerful in a beautiful way. And then, like, what fears will be challenged by me taking loving action? That also plays on us. So, like, there's a lot of fears that we have that are like, oh, no, I can't. Who's like had a loving desire come up inside of them and literally been like, I can't. Like heaps of time, right? This is not good. This is not good, guys, how we treat ourselves. It's terrible. So what can we do? Experiment. We can experiment. We don't have to get it right the first time or the 50th time. I mean, hopefully if we're engaging the process in a humble way, and desirous way. It won't take 50, hopefully it won't take 50 tries before we finally get the error out of our soul and, start to receive truth on any issue. But, sometimes it'll take more than 50. But yeah, for sure, if you're doing things that are unloving now, there's going to be consequences for your soul. In the future, you will have to feel the consequences. And in fact, you already do, but you're in denial of it. You're now living with those consequences, and you're suffering under those consequences. Here we go. Once we learn a new loving truth, oh yes, I said this, you can never enter our soul unless we personally experience it. The only way that we can personally experience something is by taking action. As we identify the things that we are doing to support the holding on of fear in our lives, so once we start to see, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and this is how I hold on to fear, we can take loving action to confront those fears. Makes sense, right? So engaging relationships differently. Being honest. Taking personal responsibility. It's a big one. That's a big, 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 big one. Taking personal responsibility. I'm looking forward to when I feel like I'm in the condition to do a talk on personal responsibility. That's not yet, that's for sure. Not yet. I feel like Jesus definitely can, but I can't talk about that yet. Because I don't really have much experience of really taking personal responsibility yet. To some extent, but not much.
Still might be a good opportunity to talk about your lack of desire for personal responsibility and where you're currently at with it. And,
Yeah. So.
When you do come to teach it, like that subject.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to be at that place to be able to share principles of it.
This is true.
And you can share where you're at right now.
Thanks, Faye.
No worries.
Yeah. And then also we can experiment with prayer in terms of taking loving action. So why would we experiment with prayer when it comes to taking loving action? And struggling to take loving action.
Why wouldn't we experiment with prayer?
Well, why would we? Why would you? Why would you experiment with prayer? How's prayer going to help you with loving action, right?
All right.
They're like desire. Or like getting desire.
Yeah, it is. It's desire. Yeah, and particularly as well, like if you are communicating with God about this thing, you are gonna become emotional about it. And also, like, if something really is loving, you will, and you are opening to God and desiring feedback from God and God's truth about it and stuff like that, you will come to feel a stronger sense of whether this really is loving as well. Because God does want you to take loving action. Even if only a small portion of what you desire to do is loving, God still wants you to act. Engage the faculty of your soul that enables you to act. Otherwise you're just going to feel like you're this powerless thing that's just blown along in life and that you have no creative ability to create anything, to do anything in life, and that's not how God designed you. God designed you able to do whatever you desire. In a loving way, in a loving direction, And you can still use your faculties to go in an unloving direction, if you want. God didn't design you to use your faculties for action in an unloving direction, but He designed the capacity for you to do it if you want. Yeah. I literally wrote, we are allowed to make mistakes. This deserves repeating. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to make mistakes. Okay? You're allowed to fuck up. You're allowed to have the ship sink. It's fine. It's okay. You can't, you gotta stop expecting yourself to get it right the first time. You're not gonna. For most issues, you're probably not gonna. And particularly if it's an issue with a lot of resistance and a lot of investment and a lot of dodgy motivation behind why you do what you do, and you've got some corrupt faith going, how do you expect to fucking sink it in one? God doesn't have an expectation that you do that because God knows where you're at emotionally. God knows that isn't going to happen. It's an impossibility that it's going to happen the first time. Well, the possibility might be 0.00000000001, something like that, right? The likelihood of you engaging that minute possibility the first time to get there is like, no one does it. You know? So you start deciding to be honest with your mum about how she treats you. You know? First few times, do you think it's really going to come out in a super loving way? It's going to be a mess. It's alright. Mess is fine. Mess is fine. You know, it's better than being bound. It's better than being completely bound by fears that prevent us from taking action, and doubt, and just living in doubt and cycling in doubt all the time. Once we know truth and then don't act, yes, it affects our soul condition even worse than not knowing the truth and not acting. So we have a greater responsibility. Once we know, we have a greater responsibility to act. Now, so you find out that hitting kids is unloving, and then you see someone hit their kid in the park and you do nothing about it. There's a greater responsibility, and there's a greater consequence for yourself for not doing anything. Who sees parents like being unloving to their children pretty regularly? Who does something about it? Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I do.
Sometimes I have in the past.
Yeah.
But it's so weird, like in the past I have.
Yeah.
And then new situations will come up and I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I pick it, like, it's like I
Yeah.
pick and choose which ones I
Yeah.
might do.
So that lets you know there's different fears that you're avoiding.
Yeah.
And it also lets you know that you're probably not stacking up the previous events to grow faith.
Faith. No.
That it is loving. There's a motivation behind it. Loving action is always rewarded by God's laws. We talked about that. Loving action is always, or not as often, rather punished by the world. Yes. Loving action will confront erroneous feelings inside of us and help us to process through our resistance.
What's erroneous mean? Erroneous?
Error-based. Untrue. So the sin inside of us. When we take loving action, it will confront our condition of sin, our condition of error, and help us to remove it. So if we're ever going to remove all this bullshit that we believe about love and about ourselves and about relationships and sexuality and God and the different things that we have of desires for, blah, 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 all these things, right? You know? Action is like absolutely required. Right. Now this is a really big one, guys, and this is something that's very overlooked. And I started to ask God for some stuff. So God has qualities, and those qualities can enter your soul and become your qualities. I'll say it again. God has qualities. You can ask God to receive some of those qualities. So let's say you want to take some loving action, right? What would be maybe, but like it's pretty terrifying. So what kind of qualities would a person need to go up to a big, burly, big, scary, violent man who's been flogging his 2-year-old in the park?
Courage.
Bingo. Courage, right? So You can ask for things like commitment, courage, steadfastness, curiosity, boldness. You know, there's compassion even. So you can actually ask God, like, can I have, please God, like, give me more of these qualities. Please help me develop more of these qualities. I want to receive these qualities from you. So when I received a bunch of compassion from God about myself, that also enabled me to be a more compassionate person. Which is pretty cool. So I got the benefit of it, and then other people got the benefit of it. And that's one thing about love, actually, is that everyone benefits from love. No one loses. Say that one again too. So when you take loving action, everyone benefits. When it's truly loving action, everyone will benefit from it. On the earth, most people probably disagree that they're benefiting from it, but they do. How cool is that? The way God's designed love is that when you are in love, in your heart, like you have love and you're acting from love, it's impossible to cause harm. You will not be responsible. You are not responsible. Like there is no, you bear no responsibility, that there is no harm that's being caused. Any harm that occurs as something is happening is actually other people's responsibility, not yours. In that situation, God does not hold you responsible at all. So you take a loving action, someone goes crazy, and then like shoots a bunch of people. You're not responsible. How's it going? Is it right? So you're in a hostage situation, right? And someone like demands that you do an unloving thing, and you refuse to do the unloving thing, and then this person who's the hostage taker takes out a gun and shoots a bunch of people. God doesn't hold you responsible for that at all. You did the loving thing. People will be like racked with guilt, like, oh, I should have done it, like people died because I didn't do. No, you did the loving thing. Who's punished themselves for taking loving actions in their life and felt like they're blamed for bad things because of loving actions? That's some cool shit right there. Like it's so cool that we do that. But often, you know, we take that on and then we're like, often we do the good thing and then we just follow the world's cue and just heap shit on ourselves about it. It's a big one, that one. Right. Resistance to love of self and love of others will prevent you from taking action. Will attempt to prevent you from taking action. So you often, what will happen is like, you have a feeling come up in you that you want to take loving action, and then there'll be this conflict that happens inside of you. And resistance to loving yourself and resistance to loving others fights against this desire that you have to take some loving action now. And does everything it can to shut you down. And often you'll have spirits around you trying to do the same thing with the same attitudes. Does that make sense? Yeah, I feel like I might just stay on that point for a little bit. So resistance to love of self, as we've defined it over the last few weeks, actually will fight against my desire to take loving action. Like throwing a wet blanket over the top of it. So if we grow our will to love ourselves even, that's going to have a massive difference in the action that we take. So we grow a desire to love ourselves more. We develop the will to love more. Our action goes through the roof. Really. Because we start to see, we no longer use those arguments against loving action anymore. So we take the loving action. It's really essential to root out all the arguments that we use against loving action and then actually do the loving thing. Doubt prevents action. Doubt. We talked about it a bit already, eh? Who's plagued by doubt? Is God?
No.
No. God's not plagued by doubt like at all, but we are. Who admits that they like being in doubt? Yeah, good, Kate. Who feels like I don't like being in doubt? I hate feeling like I'm in doubt. Yeah, it's probably a load of shit, really.
I hate that shit.
No, we say that we hate that shit.
Oh yeah.
But the issue is, it's preferable to taking action. That's why we stay in doubt, because it's preferable to the action. So you get it, right, Kate? Right. So we got to stop kidding ourselves that the doubt's real. No, staying in doubt is our preferred mode of action here, rather than taking loving action. And there'll be a whole bunch of reasons why we do that. Wherever there is a possibly loving desire, and you feel like likely like there is some love in here, like that it is a positive desire, take action immediately. Don't wait, just do it. Don't wait, just do it, right? Who waits? Oh God, I wait so long. Right? We're almost there, sorry, almost to the end.
No, it's fine.
So, who feels that they can challenge that this week if they want to? To not wait and just take some more loving action.
I wanna wait.
Yeah, right, cool. That's the honest feeling. It's good.
Yeah.
So like I just saw that like in Petersham there's this theatre that's for hire. Like a whole theatre. It looks fucking awesome. I'm gonna go check it out this week. Can I afford it? No. Is that gonna stop me from taking action? No. What? No. No, I'm going to take action. And I'm going to go have a look at this other place and then go have a look upstairs. Do I have money to rent that out yet? No.
You still look at it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like if I was like doubtful, I'm like, whoa.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you can, you can't afford it, you still can't, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it, you know, it's like, you can take action, but you can't take, like, you know, you can't fucking
When
buy
you're-
more, you know, fuck.
This is something I'm still struggling with, but I'm learning little bit by little bit that like when you're on God's side, as in like when you're in harmony with truth and love, there is nothing that's impossible. I struggle with that still. I struggle to believe that nothing's impossible.
Same.
You can take action around educating yourself about God, taking action on forgiveness, taking action on repentance, taking action with your passions. Just in case you were like, well, what do I take action on? What's action? What's loving action? What can I do? Well, these are some of the things. I'll go through them again. Educate yourself about God's true nature. You know? Educate yourself about what a relationship with God looks like. You can do action on that if you want. If you decide that you're going to want to do that. Taking action on forgiveness, absolutely. You had a too close relationship with your dad, go and read the books all about emotional incest. You know, you did that this week, didn't you?
Absolutely.
How are you finding it?
The information's good. I know some of it applies to me, but I'm not. I'm just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, reading the book is.
Yeah, but you're making progress because you are taking action, even though you are resistant emotionally.
Yeah, I can read like a little bit and I have to stop.
Yep.
And then I don't feel anything, and then I read a little bit more.
Yeah, good on you for being honest about that, Katie. Right, so but you are taking action, even though you're not really engaging a heap of humility. So, congratulations. you know, and yeah, you feel shit because you're getting all this new information and you're not feeling about it yet, so you're like real suppressed and depressed and stuff like that. But hey, you are moving some. You know, there is action going on.
Yeah.
Right. Taking action with your passions, all of those passions that you got, that you're not taking action with. And God's like, well, God's laws are like, there's only your passions. You see how you lit up when you saw that person do that thing? Why do you think you might have lit up like a Christmas tree when you saw them do that thing? Do you think maybe you might have something in your soul that you're like, shut up! Instead of just... and God's laws are like, well, maybe you just like, take action, find out. Okay. I want to play tennis right now. I don't know why. I don't know why I want to play tennis. You know, I love the artfulness of tennis. I love backspin. Like I love like backspin backhands with tennis. I think they're beautiful. I love drop shots. I love like forehand.
Yeah, they're cool, man.
Yeah, they're cool, right? Like, and that, like, because I was like, oh yeah, I loved tennis when I was younger. And I'm like, I still like hitting. Like, I don't necessarily want to be like, beat you. But I love the running around and like hitting balls back and forward. Like for me, I'm like, I wonder how many times we can hit it back and forward, like, and keep it in. Like that would be fun to play. Yeah, that'd be real cool to play. But like, have I like rung around and be like, do you like tennis? Do you like tennis? Do you like tennis? Do you like tennis? Do you like tennis?
You know, like table tennis.
Yeah, I like table tennis as well, but I want to play real tennis.
I wouldn't mind playing table tennis. If you go to tennis courts and they have like rackets for hire, you do it for like half an hour. Yeah, I'd do that.
Play some tennis?
Yes.
Yeah,
Rocked out.
Rocked out?
Yeah. I don't know how much is the
competition, because there's one like literally right near my house. Otherwise, I will come to Rockdale to play some tennis. Right, because I want to. So I do it. And it's like, oh, I don't have the resources. Do whatever you can. Don't let lack of resources shut you down. I was like, oh, like lately I was like, I want to get better at a lot of like editing stuff now, because now I need it to engage my passion for my charity that I want to create, right? And for my charitable first project. I was like, oh wow, full on. And then like literally I tracked it on Facebook, this scroll, and then bang, here's like, 40 hours and like 300 different projects that I can do that are going to teach me all of like, all of these different like editing software and like animation software and like special effects software and stuff like that. And like, plus it gives me like the, plus it gives me like to actually download the programs to use it at the same time. Had a desire, rukituk. Opportunity attracted itself. It's like, are you going to take action? Yesterday I saw a course about soil science. No, I didn't see a course. A friend of mine who's one of the foremost experts on regenerative farming in the whole planet, other than probably Jesus, really, like had a post up and he was talking about boron, and I was like, I don't know what boron is in the soil. I don't know what it does. Like, what's the boron conversation? Because I got this part and then I didn't get that part of the conversation. So I'm like, well, then I went and found a free soil science course. And then I signed up to do the free soil science course, so then I can know what they're talking about, and so I can find out about all the different things in the soil. Because I want to know. So I'm going to take action. So I've already taken action. And then it's up to me. Am I going to keep following through with the action? God does. So why not? Fear. Of all nights, eh?
Yeah, that's
Actually,
crazy.
legally they can't do it now.
It's way faster.
Maybe
than
through
what?
protest.
Yeah.
It's after
I think at 11 it stops. I think
it's 11, 12.
Is it? All right. Okay. So, last one before we go to the conclusion. Identify the areas of your life. I like this one. With the most inaction. So I'll say that again. No. I'm just saying it because I want to say it again. Identify the areas of your life with the most inaction. And the most unloving action that never seems to improve your happiness. So those two things, right? The areas of your life that you know you take the most unloving action, like it's so clear. And the areas of your life that you take no action, you just like completely feel paralyzed, or you just avoid having to ever take action. take loving action. Do it. What's up to you if you want. But yeah, like, fuck, man. Like, life just becomes so much more beautiful when you do. Like suddenly you have like all of this. It's richer, it's deeper, it's more profound, it's more detailed. There's more flourish and color and texture and beauty and engagement and people and you see God's beauty showing up in everything, God's design showing up in everything. Trust me, when you take the more loving action that you take, you are going to get so much information back that, wow, God's serious about his laws here. God's serious about this tool of loving action. And just by engaging in the loving action, now I'm starting to see all these other really beautiful things about God as well, because I'm seeing all these different facets of God reflected back in what's happening. And now I've got this faith that one of the things that was just waiting for me to do my whole life was to take loving action. So if I just had done it 10 years ago, oh my God, what would my life be like that? Well, I can find out pretty quick if I just take action now. I remember a few years ago I was talking to Fab and Fab's like, you know, you really remind me of like myself 5 years ago. I was so upset and so offended. And so like, instead of just being like, wow, what action did you take? Like, what have you done? Like, yeah. You know, I didn't want to feel that I was like 5 years behind. Mm-hmm. All right. The conclusion for this week. Right, so next week's topic is going to be the coolest tools, truth, and emotional humility. Mm-hmm. We talk about truth and we're going to talk about emotion. Now, all four of these all overlap and blend with each other. It's really cool. It's really amazing. Thank you for your time. It is very, very, very greatly appreciated. And yeah, thanks for just like rocking up and having desire to grow and engaging. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Like, it's my honor and it's my absolute privilege. Like, the greatest privilege that I could ever desire, and I feel that I'll ever desire, is to be able to share truth about how amazing God is. It's my number one passion. So yeah, because of you guys, I get to engage it with people right in front of me. I'm not just being like, hello, let's talk about God and all the wonderful things that God is. I mean, I do that too, but like, yeah, this is great to have this opportunity. It's awesome. So thanks. Right. Homework. Well, we've already talked about some stuff, right? So that's why I recommend like maybe printing this out and having a look through it and being like, okay, right. All right, let's see. Faith, action. Go through your current faith. Write a list of the kind of faith you would ideally like to have. Okay? So I'm going to do this too this week. What's the kind of faith that I would ideally like to possess and like to be driving me forward? And then what kind of action can I take to move me in the direction of those things, of that faith? And that is it. We're done. Sorry today was a bit like all over the place and a bit messier than usual. I'm also a bit messier and a bit more all over the place and resistant to a couple of issues. So hopefully next week I'll be in a bit better like condition and we'll start on time and stuff. So apologies for that, guys. Bye.